my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with MattPfeifferCoaching.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I make videos about toxic, narcissistically abusive relationships. And if you have a question that you want me to answer, you can send it to justaskmatt@MattPfeifferCoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@MattPfeifferCoaching.com. Just give me a few days to get to it. I do get a lot of emails, but the fastest way to work with me is to go down to the links below and you'll see different courses that I offer. You'll see different trainings. I offer a lot of different trainings throughout the week. And also when you send me an email, make sure you keep it 2 to 3 paragraphs max and you're very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, or if I don't understand what you're asking, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. So with that being said, let's get into today's email. So this email reads, "Hey Matthew, I finally spoke up about the abuse my fiance was putting me through for 6 years. So number one, great job. That takes a lot of bravery to stand up for yourself, to speak up for yourself, and it takes a lot of courage to do that. So that's not a small feat. So good job with that. He has now been arrested and is in custody. I've been told by my social worker that because of the seriousness of his crimes, he may go to prison for at least 2 years. This is something that's very important. That's serious, right? We have to understand, for people who are going through this, when you start to hear third parties, right, people who are outside of the situation, start to initiate situations like this where the person is going to go to prison, where your lawyer may offer you a restraining order, you need to listen and you need to follow through with that. Those things are extremely important when third-party people see it. You can talk to other people who go through domestic violence situations, and quite often they are not offered those type of things, right? So when professionals are seeing the severity of this, and they're offering, or they're pushing towards someone going to prison, they're pushing for restraining orders, you need to take that very, very seriously. Let's continue with this email. So this email continues. "This is the man I first fell in love with and is the father of my 2 boys. So we can already foreshadow where this is headed, right? We're going to be talking about trauma bonds here, right? And one of the things I tell people, and people don't like it when I say this, love is not enough. Love is not enough. Quite often people will sacrifice a lot of different things and they will give people passes because we're in love, right? So let's look at this. So you say that this is the man that you first fell in love with and is the father of your 2 boys, but you said that literally right after a sentence that you said that he's going to prison for 2 years for the seriousness of the crimes that he's committed, right? Your social worker sees this. Everyone sees this, right? Let's continue with this email. You're going to start hearing the trauma bond. For those of you who are in this, right? You're going to start hearing the trauma bond where we are right now. I'm not getting on you. This is common, but we have to understand. We have to be aware of what we're actually struggling with. And for those of you who are struggling with the trauma bond, I have a lot of trauma bond resources linked down below. Let's continue with this email. "There are so many good times and all my memories are with him." When people start saying this, right? When people say that they have good times with someone who is abusive, you have to understand that there's no such thing, right? We have to understand that the good times that you saw were really just the bad times in disguise. You hear me say this all, for those of you who follow me on other platforms, you hear me say this all the time, right? That the good times that you have are really the bad times in disguise. People, there's a reason why people teach their kids don't take candy from strangers. Why? Because the good times, what they're trying to do is that they're grooming, right? And they're providing something good, right? With the intention that there's going to be something bad behind that, right? Abuse doesn't work without some good times. It doesn't, right? Everyone who's abusive, people who are abusive, people who are controlling, people who are manipulative, they have to offer something good as bait. So the good times that you had with them were really just the bad times in disguise, because they don't equal out, right? And so let's continue on with this email. So there was so many good times, and all of my memories are with him. I miss the good times. I miss the good side in him. There is no good in him. Right? That's the trauma bond speaking. Right? I miss the good side in him. You're seeing the good side in him because that's what's called a euphoric recall. You're thinking about how good it was in the beginning, right? But we have to remember how bad it was. This person is going to has the opportunity to go to prison because of how severe things were, right? I miss the good side I see in him so much, and I have hope. And I'm going to hit that. That's a very key word, right? Hope. One of the things I'll touch on that now. People who hold on to false hope in relationships like this, that's actually what strengthens the trauma bond, right? That's what makes the trauma bond tighter and stronger, is the false hope, right? You're looking at this and you think that there's still good in there, right? And you probably think that there's something that you can do to not make him angry, right? There's something that you can do to make sure that he has a good day, to cater to try to change him. What that is the codependency in you, right? But that false hope makes the trauma bond stronger. So I miss him so much. I have hope that things would get better now that he understands it's not okay abusing me. He doesn't understand that, right? If he understood that, he would not be in this position. This person is out of control. People who understand, people who have a level of self-awareness, don't put themselves into this type of position. He doesn't understand, right? So I know it's hard to hear because you have this level of hope. It's just not true, right? It's not true. And I'm going to give you statistics here, research-based statistics here in a little bit. So it's not... I hope that things would get better now that he understands it's not okay to be abusing me, and we can be a family again. I wish my boys can grow up having both mom and dad in there to love and support them. And this is a false narrative, right? You have created, right, an expectation, a false expectation, a dream, a vision. But you've been with this person for 6 years. Right, you've been with this person for 6 years. What you have experienced, so we have a good pattern on this person. What you experienced from this person for 6 years is the reality of what this relationship is. We can sit here and we can say we can hope that he changes. We can say that that maybe he's going to see things. We can say everything, right? But the reality of it is that what you have experienced for the last 6 years is the reality of who this person is. You can dream. You can have hope, you can have all of those things, but those things are not going to change. If he saw that there was bad in the things that he was doing, he would not escalate to a point where you guys would be at this point. So let's continue with this email. He is from Iran originally, so I assume that this was how his elders treated women, and it was accepted. Right? There's a good possibility. Right? But that's still not an excuse. Since being arrested, he has agreed about going to behavioral change program. It doesn't work. Right? So I knew that this is where this was headed. It doesn't work. And so I'm going to give you some statistics here in a second. So should I wait around for him to try to move on with my life? It's so hard to let go. We always said that we would grow old together. Thank you for reading. I hope to get a response on your YouTube. So you have your response. So it's important. So we have to remember, you hear me say this all the time. I say this a couple of times a week on YouTube. It's not one person that needs work. It's two. You also need to go to therapy, get help, things like that. Because here's the problem. Right? There's multiple different problems here, and overall, this is I would highly encourage for you to get my trauma bond course, so you have a very thorough understanding of what a trauma bond is, of the sickness that you're actually dealing with. Because quite often people they would rather deal with the familiar of the abuse than to actually deal with the part of themselves that need to heal, because that is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be away from someone who has been so controlling over your life for the last 6 years. That's very uncomfortable. It's hard to do, right? And people who are going through a trauma bond, it's literally part of an addiction. It's literally the same part of the brain that deals with a heroin addiction. So the problem here, right, is that as you continue to grow, you're going to literally go through withdrawal symptoms, right? You're literally going to go through withdrawal symptoms, and you're going to feel, and it's going to feel like you literally can't make it without this person. You're going to want to go back to what is familiar, right? The problem here, though, is that this image that you have of the boys growing up in a good, healthy home, that's not realistic. It's not going to happen. And this whole behavioral change program, I know that they do the best job that they can. However, right, statistics say that that there's an over 90% fail rate. It's not going to work. In particular, I don't know the level of abuse, but if there was any type of strangulation in this, it's a high probability that not only it's that this person will continue, there's a high probability that this person is likely going to have an attempt to unalive you. I'm obviously speaking in code for YouTube purposes, right? So we have to get to the basics of what this actually is. And when we talk about your healing, right, even if we did want to try to work this out, right, and I would not encourage that in this type of situation. Anytime there's this level of physical abuse, you need to leave, right? But when we're talking about the type of healing, you have to get to a point where you feel comfortable speaking up for yourself, setting boundaries, and think about this, right? You know this. Quite often when I tell people that you also need healing, right, that you have to begin setting boundaries, that you have to be able to be assertive and speaking up for yourself, and that this will never work unless you're able to do that, unless you're able to own up to your own part in this, right? I'm not placing blame, but I mean your part in terms of your part in terms of your journey of healing, right? People know, right? They start to realize that that person that they're talking about, the abuser in that situation, is not going to tolerate you having a voice. Right? Internally, you know this. Right? Internally, you know that this isn't going to work. People who are stuck in a trauma bond, quite often, they know internally it's not going to work. But because of that false hope, right? The what if? Well, maybe if he goes through all stages and this and that, and because you also don't want to deal with your own healing, your own trauma, because of the uncomfortable, because of the fear of abandonment, because of the fear of rejection, right? Because of the unknown. You would much rather stay in the familiar. Unfortunately, in this type of situation, not only is it dangerous for you, it's dangerous for your boys as well. And the likelihood and what's actually going to happen, here's the part that a lot of people don't know about situations like this, where they want to work it out because they want to, a lot of times they'll use their children as an excuse. Well, let's do it because it's better for the kids to grow up in a two-parent home. No, it's not. Not in these type of situations, it's not. Right? Because one of the things that people don't understand about the children is that not only are they witnessing this, not only are they growing up in what's considered a dominant, submissive home, and the fact that you can't keep yourself safe, they don't feel safe either. And the other part that a lot of people don't understand about this type of environment for children is that the children attach to your nervous system, not just what they see, your nervous system. So you know this better than anyone. You likely, because of this, feel like you are walking on eggshells, right? So think about that. Your children are watching all of this stuff happen, and they feel what you feel. They attach to your nervous system, and they feel like walking on eggshells is the norm, that it's okay to walk on eggshells. And so guess what? They will repeat that same pattern as adults if you don't start to take this a lot more serious in this relationship. It's very rare that I tell people to end a relationship, right? I typically tell people, right, it's up to you. But with this level of abuse in this relationship, period, right, it's not going anywhere. It's dangerous, right? Highly, highly dangerous, right? Where we have someone that could end up in prison due to it, right? And everyone around you, all the professionals see it. Right, so I would highly encourage for you to get the support, the help, the resources that you need. I have resources to help you through your trauma bond, to help you recognize the trauma bond, to help heal from the trauma bond. All of those links are down below. However, it's imperative that you begin to start working on yourself and stop focusing in on on your ex-fiance. So thank you very much for writing in. For those of you who would like for me to answer a question of yours, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max, and you're very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. Just give me a few days to get to it. I do get a lot of emails, and I have a lot of other social media platforms that I have to run and that I have to operate. With that being said, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.